The origin of language is the topic that I chose for my informative speech. Studying the world's oldest writing for the first time compels you to wonder about what writing is, how it came about more than 5,000 years ago, and what the world might have been without it. That quote is from Irving Finkel when he wrote his book, The Ark Before Noah, Decoding the Story of the Flood. The topic that I chose was the origin of language, and I chose this topic because it interests me, because it was always just a topic that I always wondered how humans were able to speak and how there were so many different languages. There are over 6,000 languages, and out of all the languages that we have over the world, no one knows how these languages came about. No one knows how language began. No one knows who started language, who started to speak, what was the first language. No one knows any information of the history of language. There's no evidence that proves how language begins. It says that everyone uses language to express how they feel, to get information, to give information, and to give orders. According to Elsenslaver's Dictionary of Psychological Theories, language is a French word. It was introduced in the 20th century by a Swiss linguistic French Fernand de Saussure. He used the word to describe speech in every human during that time and throughout history. The origin of language became a topic talked about during the 1800s. However, people have been talking about the origin of language for years. There is evidence, or there is notes of Charles Darwin talking about the origin of language. There's also records dating back to like 4,000 years ago talking about the origin of language. There are multiple, because no one knows the history of language or how language began, there are multiple theories of how language could have possibly began. There are artifacts that prove that language started during that time. However, there are also artifacts that prove that there was language before that time. There's no artifacts that prove who, what, when, where, or why, anything about language. It is believed that the theories that they have about language, it is believed that language started between 100,000 to 50,000 years ago. It is believed that all languages stem from one general language that was started. So everyone was speaking one language and somehow developed into other languages. There have been, now there are more scientific theories. However, the theories like around 4,000 years ago, they weren't as educated theories as we have today because of the developments in science and the things that we have of this time that they didn't have at that time. So one theory that really caught my attention was the divine creation theory, and that theory basically states that language was a gift created and given by God to humans. You could find the examples in the Bible is of Adam and Eve. For Adam, you can find it in Genesis chapter 2, verse 20 to 23. And for Eve, you could find it in Genesis chapter 3, verse 2, and then verses 10 to 13. In both those chapters, they were able to speak once God created them. So it wasn't a time passing. This theory interests me the most because this is the only theory that actually gives a reason behind why there are so many different languages. And you can find that in Genesis chapter 11, which is the Tower of Babel. That explains why there are so many different languages that we have. Every other theory involves every other theory that scientists have created there's no evidence or no proof to back it up. So it's like the divine creation theory gives kind of a reason, but it really doesn't kind of give a reason. But the other theories, there's no evidence or proof to back it up. And that's the end of my topic.